this time? Okay, you're live, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Today's date, March 16th. This is the work session for the Monroeville City Council, starting at 3:30 p.m. All present right now is Mayor Andrews, Councilman Bruton, Councilman McDaniel, Councilman Ruffin, Councilman Hines, and Councilman Folker. As we go through to move into this work session, the first item up is from our code official, Tim Ball. Tim?
Thank you.
Okay. And Tim, if you'll go ahead and explain what it is that you're trying to accomplish on this zoning order.
So there was a proposition to the planning commission to amend the zoning ordinance in two areas to define better prohibited uses of land. In all residential neighborhoods, it currently says open storage of materials or goods. And the planning commission would like to amend that to say open storage of materials or goods, including but not limited to heavy trucks, machinery, tree cuttings, and household furniture. That would apply to all four residential districts. In the commercial district, it reads prohibited uses in B1. Prohibited uses are, so this is kind of like businesses around town, central part of town. Open lot sales of any kind, including new or used cars, trailer or manufactured homes, and drive-in restaurants. And we want to add to that stockyards, live animal sales, lumber yard or mill, all outside storage of junk or discarded material, including but not limited to inoperative motor vehicles, vehicle parts, tires, utility trailers, appliances, dilapidated furniture, machinery and equipment, secondhand building materials, scrap metals, or any other item which are either wholly or partially rusted junk, dismantled, or inoperative. And that is the two proposed changes.
Tim, on R1 over here, we talk about prohibited uses. If you have an individual that's he has a business, but now he's storing all of his equipment at his house, does that cover this?
Yes.
If it's not properly stored.
It would have to be stored inside or in a lot, but you can't have a warehouse in residential district.
You know, you got different people, they own a business, but they parking all their equipment right there in the yard, you know, residential is. And so I've had some questions come up about that. And we just want to make sure that this.
My biggest question is we're not enforcing the ordinance the way it is right now, but we're gonna be able to enforce it, or will we enforce it the other way? No, we're not enforcing this ordinance as it is right now.
Well, because there is a lawyer who will argue the point to say, define open storage of goods, what's the state's definition? And this is an effort to reinforce that.
That's my biggest concern is enforcing it. How we gonna be? We'll be accused of picking and choosing how we enforce it, where we enforce it, and all this stuff like that. And this, if you enforce this citywide, which I'm not against enforcing this citywide, but can we do it?
Well,
It's kind of like,
it takes a lot of time to cover the whole city.
it's kind of like we get on the thing of abatements and dilapidated building, condemned property. you know, we can't do all that there is and afford to do all that there is. We either gotta devise some way that we can, handle it through courts for that end of it or something. Because we're not, that issue is not gone away in the time, in the what, 9 years I've been on the city council.
I concur with that.
Yeah.
I believe that the planning commission has written this in an effort to help define some of those situations.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you ran into issues in trying to enforce this because of the banking and stuff.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to get more specific in doing it. And that comes back down to your point, even if we get more specific, you know, the ability, we have capability to go out and enforce. But I think to get to your issue, if we clarify this, it gives us more ammunition. And now what we gotta do is we gotta figure out a plan how to go back and
That probably need to be a plan to do it before we go further with it. And we're not voting on this tonight, I'm quite sure, but at least we have this considered.
Well, you know, that's just like the building that was out behind the motel. All right, it's torn down and gone. But we got buku right here in town. You know, nothing's been done. I mean, enforcement's tough.
Enforcement tough, and the fact of when we do condemn a piece of property and we do demolish it and so on and so forth, then we're held with the liability of the value of the property. It's, we're never going to recoup from it. We may have added some aesthetic value to it, but we basically own the property in between line doing that because of then if the grass grows in it, we got to turn around and cut the grass because they've hands off on it. They got $5,000 lien against a $2,000 lot.
And then you have the asbestos.
Properties right now that we have to move.
But I mean, if we
Potentially could happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it actually.
but we've been able to burn houses down until now. Now we're having to, if we go that route, we're going to have to. That's going to start snowballing. We have to go that direction.
Well, and the asbestos issue in a lot of these older ones, that jacks the price of demolition up. So I don't
Well, this is a proposal sent from the planning commission, and that's what we're talking about right now. So I just want to explain to you, you can vote on it or not vote on it, we'll table it and think about it. But that's what I'm presenting right now.
Once upon a time, we could be inside, we could find you.
Yeah, and this is not
I know, but
This
I'm
is
just
not
saying. we-
condemning, this is cleanliness of premise.
we do have it on the agenda that's coming up for the council meeting as to whether or not to adopt this amendment to the ordinance. So, I see it as another tool in the toolbox. Now, what we do with it, I think that's the issue that you guys with. Yeah,
If we have a plan on doing something with it, then I'd be more interested in considering that.
and I can't say that we even have had time to look at a plan to discuss it, but this is thing request from the planning commission.
Then I'm just the secretary.
Yeah, say don't shoot the messenger, right?
Yeah, but it does affect my job.
Yes,
So-
yes, but you're gonna have to be involved in the enforcement.
Like I didn't pick these words.
Yeah.
It's not my right.
I mean, you think we'll be able to enforce this?
Well, as much as we can enforce stuff right now, there may be certain situations that are a little more particular. I don't know of any in my head, but if something goes in the future, something may, some of the wording here may help, for instance, with the outright description of the automobiles. And then there is a clause about automobiles in the city limits, but this specifically states about automobiles in neighborhoods.
Yeah, when they want to straight. Right there.
That's R4. That's the clause of. Where that trailer was?
No, not with the church. You know, where the apartments was gonna come. You know, the Odom's property. right there.
It's R4. The whole, almost the entire district is R4. You're in R1, I think. Your house and some of that section is R1 because of the house sizes and the lot sizes. Cardinal looks like one, is R1 or R2. No, they could put it right. No, because there's nothing there yet. So to put apartments there, they would have to get a conditional use to do that. So the R4 covers spaces like that and density of the neighborhood and kind of the existing lot sizes on some of those houses. Some of those houses are on small lots. And then there's a lot of open land. So we would go from agricultural to R4, R3, R2, R1. R1 being the most stringent neighborhood design, like Canada. Now, if somebody wanted to build apartments there, they would have to go before the planning commission and the zoning board to get approval for conditional use. You can only have it for conditional use if it's a certain number of apartments. But we can talk about that. You and I can talk about that in the office sometimes because it doesn't affect this. Well, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Well, Councilman Thomas, we were discussing an amendment to the zoning for the district. And the changes on there are highlighted in yellow. I think some discussion has been around us when they go back. And of course, what we already have. But the reason this was put in there is because a question came up from attorneys and what they were saying that was vague. And so what they were trying to do, the zoning commission trying to get it more specific and what can be located and not located there in the zone. So we do have it on the agenda for the council meeting that's coming up. So we'll make a determination then.
Tim, does your ordinance have the penalties and enforcement section? The penalties and enforcement in the zoning ordinance on how you can penalize and enforce?
It's later in. You got to second report.
Right, that's what I'm just wondering if the council might want to review the penalties section of this ordinance, then that way they can see what it would take to enforce that section of the
Find
code.
it right now, or you want to do it?
Email it so they can review it. And that way they know actually how to,
Okay.
how you enforce it with penalties.
Okay. All right.
Separate.
Okay.
we can go look at it. Another time, go look at it.
Okay, next item on the agenda has to do with the Fourth of July celebration. And John Bruce will come in and have his comments on it. Since the fourth is actually on Sunday. We may need to consider an alternative date.
I know that Councilman Melvin Vogel had discussed that with me earlier about possibly changing the date after we decided to cancel Freedom Fest and fireworks last year. So when we went ahead and discussed it with the fireworks company, he said he would get back with us. So they are starting to align stuff up, get ready for permit time. And so he said if we do it, he just needs to know like ASAP so he can, you know, move his teams. So I went ahead and contacted all the people that are part of Freedom Fest to see if they can move it to July 3rd versus July 4th. And they said as of right now, they could do either. So I just want to get it nailed down so there's no confusion and we can get everything put in place. The rain date will stay on the 5th, which is a Monday, which is the national holiday.
Is everybody pretty much in agreement with those dates?
I mean, we need to make a decision which of those three we're gonna execute power.
Well, the 2, the 3rd or the 4th.
I mean, we could actually do the 5th though, couldn't we?
It's not lined up to, well, it is, but we're lined up for the 5th.
But anyway, I mean, that's fine, but I mean, I just say that would still be a date that should be considered.
Yeah.
We, as far as city will be closed on the 5th, won't they?
Yes, sir.
The holiday conservatives there. Saturday probably, I think probably gonna be the best shot if anybody has any other thoughts.
If we had it on Saturday, would that maybe give us a better shot at keeping folks around?
I know we get the church issue of Sunday, but that's not kind of both ways there. People,
I think with it being a 3-day weekend, you know, they're gonna have Monday off too. So, I mean, it's just a call. I just thought I'd ask you all what you thought.
I think Saturday, better to me. Kind of that direction with some, there's some strong reasons for that. The fact of doing it, I think, is 100% good. I mean, I think there's no question we're gonna do it this year no matter what. One is we've already spent the money, so we might not be able to
Yes, sir.
delay it any longer.
I did send everybody like some information that basically said that also we lined up the fireworks like the year before in June. So we were able to purchase fireworks at the same price as we did for 2018. But since then, the price has gone up because of the China tariffs. And that's where all the fireworks come out of. So, I mean, unfortunately, everybody's pricing is going to go up on that. So I discussed it with them when I had the conversation, you know, like how much of an increase should we expect? And they said about 20%. And I said, well, we bid at 15. And that's what I told them. I said, but we will probably need to get that in the works around June of this year because the early bird catches worm is my theory. So I would like to go ahead and start working on that. But most of them won't talk to us until after 4th of July.
That'll be the 2022 celebration.
Yes.
I think there's a pretty good chance. Of course, their price is probably going to stay up 20%, but there's a pretty good chance that the tariffs are going to get rescinded. So if we go and bite the hook, then the tariffs come off, which I was told there's shiploads of stuff sitting out there just waiting.
Right.
You know,
So we just don't know what's
We
going to
don't know.
happen.
The only thing that bothers me about this is we paid more to get it on the board, and now we're not gonna get a discount for going off.
Well, that's a good point.
It's almost double.
Okay. Well,
Was that brought up?
It's not really an option this time because
We rolled it over.
everybody is rolled over. And if we do the third versus the fourth, we're swapping with somebody and or swapping crews anyway, so I don't know how that's gonna work. for them.
okay, then, I guess we need a motion on this one, to the council, set the date. And, be prepared to move forward. And, sounds like consensus is July 30th. With the rain date of July 5th. I think that's it. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda for the work session is the classification pay plan. And I hope everybody has had a chance to take a look at it. We have to provide an ordinance which goes back and talks about career development, which is what Councilman Hines brought up. Career development is very important. And I don't know if we actually had a career development path for our employees in the past, but this is a great opportunity. What it does is prepares them to move to the next step. So we don't have to be going outside all the time looking for somebody to fill these positions. It lets them know what certifications and this type of thing that they have to have. It's not anything new. I've been through it throughout all my career and participated in it. It grows the employee. It shows it requires some investment in it, but that investment pays off. I provided information in the last meeting that goes back and it talks about the entry level steps. In the majority of the cases, the entry level is at step 1. Now they provide an option, and I emailed that out to the council members. There's about 10 people, I believe, that it would affect. What my suggestion was is that you had 10 years of service, that we start you instead of step 1 to step 2. If you had over 15 years of service, we started you at step 3 instead of step 1. Now that applies to all except our public safety employees. Now, the public safety employees scale was different. And the reason is that we're trying to be competitive with all of the other police departments and sheriff departments in the area. So that's why I came back and I looked at that option, and there's no other incentive after that, after 20 years. And like I said, the whole purpose of this is to get them on the pay scale. This is a one-time move on the pay scale. Anything after that would be determined by the performance evaluations. As we look at the numbers, if I'm not mistaken, going to
Mayor.
yeah, the numbers on it that we would have to prepare for next budget year would be a total of $254,378.39. Now, and adding these different steps into it, and trying to see where I put my notes, it's going to add an additional, I think it was about $2,600 to that 254,000.
Included steps for long-term employees.
No, it did not include the steps for the long term. If we add the long term, I'm trying to say, I made my note.
We're talking about including benefits too.
No, that was, when you include the benefits. Yeah, when you include the benefits, it came out for implemented in that fourth quarter. The total amount of benefits was then right at $10,000. That's where on that column down there you see 68,832. So if we include the benefits, correct me on my numbers if I'm off, Ms. Jackson, that would be for a year, another 40.
Right.
So then we jumping from 254 to 294.
The 250,
254 includes the benefits, huh?
no, sir, that's salaries alone.
Salaries alone.
So that doesn't include the retirement or the price.
So the retirement cycle is roughly about $10,000 a quarter.
Right.
So you're talking about what, 294?
Yes.
Well, we adopted this last year, it was gonna be $100,000. So now we're at 300,000.
Twice.
That's why I went back to go through and get in depth on this. So I wanted the council to be fully aware, to be as transparent as possible on. And, like I say, when you go back in and you start looking into it, everything that's going to involve, we always have a more capable employee because we're going to go through performance evaluations and the career path and the background.
Hey, now, can we, I'm sorry about this. Can we just have a work session on this table this night? We're not gonna do this tonight.
Well, that depends on what you guys want to do when you come out here. If you want to dedicate a work session to it. We have ordinance prepared to move forward with.
I would like to tell you, I got several questions we talked to you about. I didn't talk to you earlier about how you told us to get with you, if you have any questions, I got several questions.
See, on the sheet, you got three, you got the AE plan, you got committee recommendation, which I would say would be committee discussion. And then you've got proposed rates. Where did the proposed rates come from and who put that together? See, in the green.
Proposed rate over here? Yeah, that proposed rate was when the committee went back and we met. And that was the rate that we were talking about with, like the police department and the fire department and the others that came in down here, other than the police department and the fire department. The majority of these are at that step one entry level.
But we didn't talk about these proposed rates. We dealt with the others. I mean, we dealt with the one in red is what we talked about. Yeah, the committee recommendations, I thought.
Well, the committee recommendation and let's go back over here.
But I think that's what everybody needs to look at and see,
That was on this sheet here that he came out. And you see what it says? It's got committee recommendations on that. It's in red.
Right.
And that's the one that goes through and deals with all of the, where you see the police and your first responders. That was the biggest portion on that. And the rest of it was in compliance. The other rates on here were in compliance with the first step of the Auburn plan. You'll notice there on the blue column and the green column, you'll see them in compliance with the first steps on the Auburn plan.
I'm kind of confused as to why do we even have the proposed column? Because you got it all on, if you take the blue and the red, I mean, to me, that's all we need. But that's up to discretion of you.
And on this sheet that came out of the folder that we got, it show, even if you went with the proposed rates, it's showing it at 205,486. That
Yeah,
number
but-
went to 254.
There was one position in there that didn't get counted. That was it was one position at the police department. And when you add it in what his rate was, it was 30. It was a corporal's position. And it was filled by, what was it filled by, not Gordon.
Matt Johnson.
Matt Johnson. Okay, and his, right, 1847. And that is where it jumped up to where you got more secret before.
But his own notes, including 205.
But we went back and we looked at it.
Are you looking at the sheet we got last week, the last meeting, or the other
I
one?
got the one out of this folder.
Okay, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's where this was.
That's down. 39. And there was another one that somehow or another we got counted in there. Didn't get counted. I think that was that Matt Johnson rate, because down here shows a vacancy for a corporal. It was taken out and added in. That's because we went back, we reviewed it one more time, and that's what we found, wasn't it? Ms. Johnson?
Mhm. There was a duplicate in the vacancies at the bottom for the police department. There's 4 vacancies. And, well, there was 5, and then one of those vacancies was filled with Mr. Johnson, with Officer Johnson. And so there was a $39,000 difference on the master sheet on that other one, Mayor.
So which number is correct? 205?
Well, the vacancies accounted for on that sheet?
Now, on the bottom, it's showing the one under for the red column, is it 174,396? You got yours? I'm looking at the one that we were given last meeting.
There's 174,396. And some of these on here in that red column, they were not in compliance with what we talked about over here on the Auburn.
The tall ones, yes, sir.
In the Auburn study, and that was the reason that we went back, if you notice in what I gave you in that last folder, it went back and it talked about being in compliance with the compensation laws and federal guidelines that we use to go back and develop this and defensibility of court and all those issues. And that's what I was pointing out in the meeting the last time.
And I got a problem with like you got some people that are like 12 years. You got people that have 4 years, and people who have 4 years making more than people that have 12 years, they're more qualified. I think that's why we have an issue with the department of people leaving, because the way the system is set up.
Right, but see, that's what I'm talking about now, you know, for people who have been here, say, for 10 years or more, they would get one step above the entry level to the pay plan. And if you've been here in excess of 15 years, you get 2 steps above the entry level pay plan. I think I sent that out and got everybody identified on the memo I emailed. But what that does, that gives them some credit for time and grade service, which I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah, this plan right here does not take into account length of service.
Right.
That's the next step. If you can go that far.
Right. So I wanted to give you the information to give them on the pay grade at the entry level. Then the council has the option to don't decide as whether or not to give credit for time and grade. And my recommendation was for 10 years, between 10 and 15 years, grade 2, step 2, and from 15 to 20, it would be step 3. Now, after 20 years, I don't see going any farther past that in order to get you on the pay scale. Once you're on the pay scale, any other steps that you get will be based upon the job performance evaluations.
That's how you want it, correct? It's every 5 years. Steps.
Right. I think we need to go back and amend that and say, you put a limit on to 20 years.
Mayor, it looks like this document that was in the file, this has the old rates and it doesn't include the longevity.
Right.
And so-
That's what we're discussing now, whether or not to include the longevity.
Right, so the discrepancy between this budget and this one is that there's updates for longevity that was included, and then also on this one, the corporal vacancy right here, that's 39,570.18 was duplicated. So this amount was also included in this amount right here in the annual budget salary in the gray column. So do you want me to go make a copy of this for everyone that has the longevity salaries?
I think we need to take it one bite at a time. I think we need to get everybody where they're supposed to be and then look at longevity. We're getting things way too balled up here.
So without longevity, we're at 205.
Yes, sir.
Then that goes back to what Councilman Thomas brought up, is that you have one person that's been there 4 years making the same thing as somebody's been there 4 years.
But why are we looking at the 205 and not the 174? That's my question. Under the red column, if you add it up, it's 174, right? So why have we all of a sudden jumped over to the green column at 205?
Well, the red column had steps that were in there that were not in the grade that
Doesn't matter about the.
suggested that.
I'm not worried about what all of them say. All I'm worried about is what we gonna do, and that's in the red column. That's where, to me, that's where we need to be looking and working if we're gonna do it at all. I mean, just because somebody's come up with this green column, that doesn't mean that's not even what we talked about. You and Al and I spent I don't know how many hours looking at this thing, and now we want to jump to something we ain't even talked about.
The green column over here was a combination of suggestions of red and blue. And there were several in here in the green column that were changed in step grades. And
Wow.
in this red column, what you had some people who were supervising in the same grade as the employee. In order to go through it and change that, then somebody's gonna have to go back and rewrite job description and make all of the additional changes to move people down. Now, I don't know who would take on that responsibility. No, that's what I'm saying. We have a study here. It's been done by people who are professional in doing it. And these were the recommendations that they came back and gave. Now, if we want to be different, my question is, what is the plan that we have to offer? Put on the table to be different. And as Councilman Thomas asked, if we want to come back and devote a special work session to this with all of the council members, I don't have a problem with that.
Here we go. So we got the ship and this, I know we had met as a corporate. I've been saying this for years, for 4 or 5 years now. I wish that we would have within our department first before how somebody
I agree with you, and that is one of the purposes of having, as Councilman Hines said, we need a career development path so everybody understands what they need to do in order to get the promotion.
So we need to talk to the department, and make sure they're doing it, because that's the only way they can get done through the department, because they don't have any control over that part, so. Because we got, I think we just got another corporate just quit. Not too long ago, so we got another corporate position open.
That's one match.
He got angry position, but
Yes,
then, Gibson quit, the older guy.
Bobby, he wasn't.
He was a
Was he
corporate
corporate?
sergeant one, he was one of the others. He was over a shield, right? He was a corporate sergeant, I think.
Sergeant, maybe.
He was one of the others. So,
Well, like I said, if we want to come together as council and invite department heads in and have a special work session to deal with this, I don't have a problem with it. Because I think it's something that's been out there and we need to either adopt it or don't adopt it.
Need to keep in mind public safety. We're having trouble hiring people right now. We're gonna be, if we don't do something soon, we're gonna be in trouble.
see, the people you're losing is not you're losing the people who making decent money. You're not
You get
losing.
to a certain point, it's harder for you. to
Right,
lose.
that's right. So you're not losing the bottom too much if you look at who can quit. It's been like the young person went to the county, so they went for like, we're getting $1. That's what $1, so they were making decent. So
See,
Still well below the average
Yeah.
of all the other public sector.
and see,
That's true,
like
true.
on this, if you notice, on the police officers,
Mhm.
step one starting salary for them is $17.50 an hour. Now, you're competitive at that rate with everybody else around.
That's right.
And see, it was the same like for the fire department. Okay, and those are your first responders. And that's one of the things that we took into consideration when we came through to make these proposals. Now, when you get outside of public safety, I think a lot of discussion came up about the classification of the people and the hourly rates that were being paid. Now, as we went through and we took a look at it, I believe in the folder I gave everybody at last council meeting, I went through to point out why I thought that we need to start at the first step for all of the other city employees.
So he's saying that, like, once they certify, they make 1754, right?
Yes. Now, entry level officer will come in at 1550.
Okay, so, and 12 weeks, you'll be making 1754, but you got people who've been here less than 12 years, they probably make like 16 of
11 or 12 years, they actually go up to, let's see,
17.
Look at the red column, that would be what that would be.
and if you got any patrol officers that have been here 11, 12 years, because see, like in the case of the foreman, and people like that that have been on board longer, they're at a different rate. Like you're looking at, look at the rate for a lieutenant, this rate is $20.46 an hour. And that's the rate that we came through and we agreed on, because you gotta have separation between your different ranks. If not, there's no reason for a person to be interested in getting promoted. I've been through that. Not only that, I had to move and eat all of the moving expenses for just a small amount of money. It almost wasn't worth it. So that's what you have to take into consideration, and what we recommended on the first responders, that that there is a separation there because they're taking on more duties and responsibilities. So what you see, most of everything that you see up here when it comes to first responders, police department, and fire department, is in lockstep with what in the red column. And it may be even a little higher than what Auburn recommends. It is higher than what Auburn recommends, so that we could be competitive. Now, once you move past the first responders and we get into the other departments, is where we were saying we recommend that we move in at step one, based off the Auburn pay scale for step one in each of those positions. Now, if you have been on for over 10 years and less than 15, what my proposal is, and what I had sent out in the email to you guys, is that we give that person, we start them at step two. If you've been on 15 to 20 years, starting out, we would start you at step three. And that is to get you on the pay scale. Any other increases in steps will be based solely on performance evaluation. Now, there's a caveat to that. You provide the performance evaluations if budget allows.
If we're gonna do performance evaluation, I hate to tell you, but I think the council needs to be involved.
Well, my proposal is, for someone who don't meet the standards, that the person has to write that information up and provide it to the council for review, because you denied him a step increase. If a person exceeds standards, it needs to be well documented and written up and provided for the council for review for more than one step increase. But I know in some of this stuff, you gotta have check and balance. And so that's what I'm trying to make sure that we have check and balance.
Oh, it's evaluation, be done by the immediate supervisor.
Yes.
Not necessarily the department.
Right, by the immediate supervisor.
And something that was kind of misleading, the last meeting that we had 5 budget years that we were given this sheet saying that we had a surplus every year. Well, to me, a surplus is what I have in the bank that I don't need. That's just like last fiscal year. It was showing we had a $1.3 million surplus, which was absolutely false propaganda. If we had $1.3 million last year, it ought to be in the bank.
It is in the bank. Do you want to see a bank statement?
Well, did we not spend it? How did we pay for the lake project? How did we buy a fire truck? How did we pay for police cars?
It is in the budget.
Okay.
$680,000 was transferred out of the general fund into the
If
capital
we
improvement.
if we had $1.3 million surplus last year, we've got $1 million in there. We ought to have $2.3 million in a savings account.
What I understand though is that part of that surplus was used to pay for half of the fire truck last year and half this year.
Yes, sir.
So it's not a surplus if you spend it.
We were under budget. And we had $294,000 from the CARES Act. And we were under budget. The surplus information was given to you all in an email as to what we needed to do to redistribute the funds out of the
And we
general
did,
fund.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it was spent. So
Not all of it. We had a little bit of like $200,000 in reserve for this reason alone, for the classification.
Yeah,
plan.
but if you spend it, it's not surplus.
Well, I think what
But that's just me. I
what
mean,
those numbers were indicating that, you came in, but actually you were on budget, but you had excess revenue.
Yeah,
Right.
That's what it is.
And the excess revenue was used in planning your 2021 budget.
exactly. It was
So,
spent.
right. So this year, we
rest my
don't
case.
know at this point whether or not what our excess revenue would be until actually the end of the year.
Right. So
So-
what I'm saying is over the last 4 years that I've been on the council, we spent about $400,000 on veterans. We spent about that much on Ivy Street. We bought a fire truck, we bought police cars and paid for all of it. So, you know, so we don't actually have that surplus in the bank. That's what I'm saying.
No, and the only reason that you were given that was to show that there has been a progression in the revenue that the city has received. And the only reason you had that surplus is because the council has been vigilant on how they go back and spend.
Exactly.
So now next year when it comes up, the surplus may not be $1 million. If good Lord willing,
Maybe
it'd be $1.5
more.
million.
That's right.
But if
We
it's
hope.
not, you know, then we have to take that into consideration. And I'm quite sure we can do budget projections when it's time to start the budget development, you know, to give us some idea of where we might be based on the revenue stream.
I know since I've been on the council, we deposited 200,000 or whatever, so we'd have $1 million, you know, CD or whatever. But I'm just saying that's kind of somewhat misleading.
Well,
to me. That's just me.
I asked for that because I've been seeing a progression, but, you know, not to give the impression that this was something out there that we just go out and spend. But what that progression shows is the reason that you had the surplus is because you were vigilant on what you did with your budget. Now, that has been applied for the 2021 budget, except for 200-some thousand of that surplus was applied to those other projects that we talked about. You know, like what you talked about with the lake project, purchasing the fire truck, and other things to be done. Now, it depends on what the revenue stream will be next year. Will determine as to whether or not, and what our budget is, as to whether or not put our surplus in.
No.
But like I say, if that's the thing that you guys want to do, we'll come back to trying to set a special work session to go into this and move forward. Because I know y'all been fighting this for a while. Dealing with fighting is not the appropriate word.
So what about the study from Auburn that got done? You gonna scrap that?
Well, everything that you saw over in that green column that we were talking about, that was a combination of the recommendations for police and fire, and also the first step out of the Auburn plan. That is what that was. And see, we came to the committee, came to discuss where to start the police and fire. And we also went through, we had some discussion about some other recommendations that they had. But I'm gonna be first to tell y'all this ain't kindergarten stuff. You know, it can get complicated.
You already paid somebody to do the study. Why would I go back and do it?
Well, like I say, if y'all have whatever it is that you know, where you want to go forward from here, you know, if the full council wants to do a work session on it, I don't have a problem with it. No, just depends on the direction that you guys want to go.
Me personally, I don't see a reason to go back. You already paid somebody at the university to do the research for you. Almost like doing double work and trying to reinvent the wheel.
Well, you know, when you go through, and that's my concern, I want to be transparent. I don't want anybody to think they're trying to get the figures out to low ball to vote, you know, for it. I want to be transparent about it so that we all have an understanding of it.
I think some of it got into this to where when they did it, they were independent of doing the study. And then when we got it and started looking at it, and we had started putting people's names and positions and that part of it, the personal part of it, where it got some questions about it. Like, we know the person, they've been doing a good job for 8 years. Why are they making only a 15% raise versus somebody else's that? And that's not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's why it got kicked down the road from last year before you came on to where we are at this point in time.
You see, you made a very good point. Since 2002, the job classifications and pay grades have really not been addressed. And that's why there's so much difference in some of those positions that you see. So you're talking almost 20 years in which, it lagged behind. And if you saw on one of those charts on there, you see in some of those positions, there's a big gap. And what you're doing now is going back and making up the gap. And the thing I would say is you gotta think about the future. Because in the future, to get somebody incentive to follow a career plan to get there, or if you have to go outside and hire somebody, you want to get the best you can get. I've been there where you didn't hire the best. You got problems from that point on.
But see, Ken, on that Auburn study for a certified policeman, they were recommending 1550. That's correct, right? So that didn't do anything. I mean, we still were gonna be way, way down the totem pole, We wasn't gonna be in the ball game with everybody else.
And what we did is that we verified that because they're first responders and everything, we don't have to start down that first step. So we can go back in and it's at our discretion as to whether or not that first step is an appropriate step to hire. That's what we did, be competitive.
So I'm just trying to get a better understanding because of, they left off the other position that's open right now, so they're gonna make it one side. I don't see why we're in a hurry because we just gave them $1,800 for 2021. So.
I don't know, I looked at that, the Auburn study, and I saw where they compared it to other counties our size, not even close to the benchmark. And, some of these people like the public works and stuff, they don't make a whole lot of money, and, any kind of little help they can get, to be competitive. You got somebody goddamn break their back for nothing. And you can drive an hour to a town the same size as this and they make more. So I don't know, when I looked at it, I saw it was a great difference in prices for some of these people that are being paid. And I do agree with the performance evaluation or merit raise, so to speak, if there is money to do it. I mean, that gives somebody an incentive to get up every morning and say, hey, I'm coming to work the best I can to get what I can get. So if there hadn't been a change in that long, it's time for one. And if we got the data we already paid somebody to do, let's figure it out and use it. If not, that means we're gonna have to go out and do it ourselves. And then, I wouldn't think I want to be responsible for that.
They've gotten raises during this time. It's just the equality of it is
It's all.
Yeah.
And if you go back and you look at it, I think it was 3 different cities or towns or whatnot. 5. We don't even come close to the benchmark. So
I think their main goal is to get it equal.
Yeah.
By some scale, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, we can just get close to it.
In most instances, that's what you got, you close. And a lot of you, I didn't see one that went over the benchmark.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna table this, so. Yeah, some people said something like the 174, some people said something like 205. I mean, that's why we need to have, this is a big step. I mean, it's a lot of money. We don't know what they're gonna do in the next couple of years. So
when did you want us to have this ready?
we can do this, we can have a meeting next week, y'all want to.
The objective we were shooting for is starting at the beginning of the fourth quarter. That's July. First pay period.
I mean, like Anthony said, we've already done 1,800, which was over $100,000. for this year, and I think that was pretty much understanding. That's what we were gonna do this year. Was it not? I mean, I don't know. Y'all tell me. Somebody say something.
When we talked about it, we said we would look at it again in April, May timeframe.
Right.
Yeah, that's why, so we got. And we said, work session for next week.
Well, you wanna do, you wanna just call a special work session for next Tuesday?
That group of everybody.
Next Tuesday, which that might be a good time to call. Yeah, I'm tired of it.
Well, can we get it just for the next council meeting? That would be for the next council.
Can you give me? Oh, you're not talking about that day.
Yeah. Mayor's tied up Tuesday, and Wednesday, how about next Thursday? How does that sound to you? What time you wanna start? 3:30, 4 o'clock?
And in the case we're not restrained on the time, the end time of the later would be better. That keep me better. I worked at least 4 on most days, because I take off something. So,
All right, next Thursday, 4 o'clock.
It's a work session, or do you want to make it a special called meeting to vote?
Well, we're gonna be so close to the next council meeting, let's make it a special.
Work session.
Work session.
Okay.
What the kids talking about.
I'll send out a notice.
What time is it? 4 o'clock.
Oh,
My
no.
opinion is we look at this and everything, we look at it.
And I
The
appreciate,
committee's gonna look at it, everything, we can look at it, and we still haven't got it.
I appreciate what y'all done.
In the minutes, it said, I put it, he asked the council to consider a one-time longevity consideration for current employees that have been with the city over 10 years. Just moving them up one step for their first 10 years and one step more each additional 5 years thereafter.
Right.
What part do I need to amend?
Each additional 5.
Yeah, each
Okay.
additional 5, limited at 20 years.
Okay,
So one step,
But once you get to,
one step after 10, one step after 15.
yes. And then, after that, it's all based on performance evaluation.
They're gonna be close to retirement time. Then.
Well, they're gonna stick with you at that
Yeah.
point in time.
except for Leroy, he's
Looking for that 25.
a trooper.
He gonna make a career out of it.
He has.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is that we have a proposal from Mr. Ron Wiggins to purchase, property behind Beverly Park. And I think I sent out an email to everyone that had, he had an appraisal done. And in addition to having an appraisal done, that there was a map included. And, I don't know what the council's wishes are on it. From everything I've had to deal with, and when it comes up to the property, the question is there a benefit to the city?
What was Michael's comments on that? That's why when he came to me, I said, you kind of make a call. Is that usable for us? If it's in that creek area and that we can't dump in it. I mean, most of that is not very. He's trying, I know he's trying to do. He's got, I think, 20 acres in there. And his building site is close to this property line, and this would just give him some buffer on that side of it.
And yeah, the part that he is talking about is on the upper side of the property. They went through and they took some photographs of it, and that's probably one of the more level sides. It's cheap like that.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, did he talk about how much? I mean, what's a minimum size or a minimum amount?
Email I got from him, he's talking about 8 acres.
It's basically where that road that comes in, where they haul debris and stuff in there.
Right.
It's the end of it on the left side, you going in. And in fact, it actually joins, part of it touches on me on the back side, just for just a little corner there.
I asked Chief Black to come in and talk about this, because it deals with fireworks this way. And this is that Wiggins property. The city property that the Wiggins wants to buy.
Yeah, I saw it on the agenda yesterday morning and asked the mayor about it. That we have to have, where we currently shoot fireworks, have to have a 300-foot radius for fallout. And we currently meet that. I don't know if this property would fall into that, but if it did,
This is past that.
and they ever built anything on it, then that would eliminate us, and then we'd have to relocate to a point to clear that. But we can't have any property within it.
I mean, this could be past that. You already got Jim Davis's property past the dog park.
Right.
Before you get, and then there's David Hutchinson's, and then you're that. So no, it's gonna be past that. That wouldn't be an issue there.
Yeah, that was the only question I had, that, that if it did get within
Yeah.
that 300-foot radius of our fallout, then that they wouldn't approve our permit. So,
I mean, you already got houses with 300 feet of all out. Well, if they're not in, if Jim Davis in the house is not in within that range, then this one definitely.
but I mean, if he bought the property and he decided to build up next to the property line or whatever, then that would be an issue at that
But
point.
as I said, the property line is past Jim Davis's property line.
I just wanted to make.
Okay, I mean, that's good, but I mean.
And, like I say, it's what the benefit is of the city, and, I guess in the past, the door's already been open for the city buying and selling property, so.
The property, your house is located on part of the property that was the old Finkley property. It was the Southern Baptist Association. That piece was bought in that out of this group of land here. Where you actually, there was 20 acres sold out of that side of the road that came out of the same piece of property. And that's been 30 years ago, close to it, 25.
The house was built in the early 90s.
Well, has he said anything about a minimum acreage or anything?
He's
like
trying to square it off. I think that's basically all it is.
He told me 3.25. That's what he told me.
Yeah, like 3 acres, 3.5, somewhere. I mean, 3 and 3 would do them, but he thought since that all that back part,
Okay.
Somebody squared it off.
he kind of, wanted to square his property off so he could move his house back here closer. Now, all this in here is got a sewer line going through and it's real swampy.
Yeah.
But now, you gotta remember this, the railroad to get to that trestle, it comes through there to work on it. And I mentioned that to him. And them gullies and all back there, and, we could, as far as us using it, now this back part back here, we would never use it. It ain't nothing but swamp land.
Well, what about going from the rainy, going straight up? How much?
This right here?
Yeah. Oh, come back.
Make a big rectangle.
Oh, you're talking about right there?
No, just go
Right there.
straight.
Right here. If you went from there up, what kind of acreage are you talking about?
Maybe 2 acres, maybe two, well, maybe a little over 2 acres. Now, I did mention to him, whenever we was talking about it, then just have a wooded buffer between him, if he did get that property, to leave enough room where there would be a wooded buffer between him and our place. Because right now, we don't have many trucks, no equipment really going in and out there. But if we have a storm or something, there's gonna be a lot of equipment over there and there's gonna be a lot of trucks in and out.
What's that zone right in back toward the railroad track?
I'm not mistaken, it's all agriculture. I think it's all agriculture.
Really?
Now, can you go down with that map at all? Is there anything higher up there you can see? Yeah, come down. Can you?
No, that's a
I can
printed
get you
on.
another one.
Okay.
Hold on.
I was wondering if you can get up there where you see Jim Davis and keep back out across there.
Hold on a second.
I actually had talked to Ron about buying this property before we bought our house. to build on.
There's not many, for 20 acres, there's not many spots, unless you dig in the hillside.
Right, and that's what I was going to point out.
Come back down.
And this is the property, and that spot right there is about the only flat spot on the whole place that you can build on.
It's a creek on this bottom end, is a creek running through there.
But he's already going in and putting off the town spot.
Huh? Yeah.
He's already cleared, yeah.
Right here, Tim, right here at Jim Davis, which we traded that time for the property over at Ivy Street.
And now,
And then you go past this is where the dog park is. So therefore, whenever you talk about the fireworks thing, you got this property in the house right here and a house right here. This is still Sam's Head house, David Hutchinson, Jim Davis. And that's what David was interested if we do this, to go ahead and that's already been taken private ownership. And then if this would be private ownership, would that also be, that's where the archery ring was put in there. Well, last year we allowed to go in that park right here. I'm buried right in this woods right there.
now, whenever the city swapped that property, didn't they put in there something about that he could not build on
Yeah.
that section?
We did if it got put in there or not, but that was discussed.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be put in there where he could not build anything out there. He could use it for garden, yard, whatever, but it couldn't be no building because it would be in the 300-foot radius. And we may, you may want to put a stipulation on that other property like that.
Well, I guess my question would be, if you sell this, seems like you already got interest for somebody to buy the other part of it. So,
And see all that. This all right here was that part of that same property. There's 20 acres in there. Usually live somewhere right back in here, about right.
That's the Horton's house right there.
Yeah,
Somebody's
okay, so you're back,
sitting
over this. But he's in that piece of property. And this is where Tommy Jordan, he was the one that actually purchased it. Built up here, he's no longer living there now.
I'm gonna see what it's zoned.
Might as well.
like I say, my only, question is what is the benefit to the city, so.
Not want to make that call.
Mhm. Hang on,
Stacy Stewart.
I know.
Optional, yeah.
I need to go down.
Well, yeah, that's R1 plus Stacy Street and all here. Well, his, I guess, is R4, and then the city's is R1.
That's where we got in the discussion with David Hutchinson about having an archery thing on R1. There's zoning questions for that.
Yours is over the Ag 1 with the trailer over there.
Fine with me. You can get one in there, you can put one in there. Can I go ahead and move one in there and sell that back lot now?
You have to go 15.
Like I say, that's what my question is. I know that this is a decision that council has to make, and if I say that, it's on the agenda to be considered tonight, so.
I'd be in favor of doing a minimal amount,
I think that'd be the approach to that.
but I'd want to have an appraisal done rather than, I saw where he had the appraisal done for the whole area. I'd like to have one done just for what he agreed, we agreed to sell and he agrees to buy, rather than doing the whole thing because the appraisal amount maybe.
Well, if you look at some of the appraisal over there on some of that other property, I think it was $9,000, $10,000. Hey,
It is what it is. You want,
I'm not sure, so I guess, you know, we want to table it until we get an appraisal.
Well, first of all, you probably find out if he's in agreement to go that way, which he may be. And if he is, then appraisal would be the next option. Would be.
Okay.
Talking about 2 or 3 acres in
Yeah.
that range,
whatever,
whatever that square is.
minimum amount.
Well, do straight lines in there. I mean, that's
Straight
basically would be the thing.
How much is that? You say probably 2 or 3 acres?
Well, that one square part, the whole square part, probably 2 or 3 acres.
So it's gonna be 3 acres for this.
Yeah.
Whatever it is to square.
It
it.
might be a
It's
little
probably
over.
about 3, 'cause I've got 4. Bob's got 5.
It might be a little over 3.
640.
No,
Mm.
640 by 640.
210 by 210.
210.
Yeah.
210 by 210.
Maybe I'm going by a mile.
So we basically want to table this until we find out the maximum amount.
Minimum.
Minimum amount that he would be willing to take.
Or just square it off,
Square it
like
off.
Milton's talking about, whatever's in that square,
Can we
in
bring
that
it back up
rectangle.
again one more time?
You would have to actually get a survey on it.
Yeah.
But now, like I say, I would like to make sure we get it far enough away from where we working at. Cause, you know, I don't want nobody, we call and complain we're in their backyard with equipment and stuff. So we will be in there doing stuff different times.
Then you have folks complaining.
Well, you know,
Hey,
one
don't give
of the things I noticed when I went out there is that a lot of that stuff that was intended to be a landfill, the city has still been. You know, and so as you go through and you look at that, and continue to build it up, you know, that's why I say, I don't. It's an issue that I guess the council will have to decide, and what we'll do is that we'll go back and we'll get an appraisal done, if the council authorizes to do an appraisal. Then, to see what the actual value is.
And the person that did that would probably not be very difficult to do. That,
Well,
pull that part off.
the reason his appraisal is kind of low, because he was looking at all that bottom one. He was looking at the bottom section too, and he was comparing it to other places. That's the reason the price is, the appraisal is low on that. See, because once you get right here, it starts falling off, and when you get right in here, it falls off fast. You got gullies and swampland. You got the sewer line going across it. You can't hardly get a buggy down in there, four-wheeler.
It is rough.
So see, whenever he appraised it, with all that being together, that's the reason it's a low. But now if you just do this section right here, because that's prime land right there.
Oh, yeah. I would just rather, instead of coming all the way out there, I would just square it up. Well, see, this is.
Do the pink line or?
Yeah, just go right up.
Stand up, yeah.
But just like that. And that would leave plenty of buffer between.
You see what I'm saying here? If you go through and you square it up here, then we already got someone asking about buying other property.
And square it all the way up.
Square it all the way up.
That's, if he's willing to go with that, I'm in favor of that. The other, I'm kind of, whatever. Because then you get into what Bob Rainey wanted.
Probably.
Personally. Then you get into things Bob wanted about that little. But I do know Bob's, I think is 5 acres.
Oh, you talking about right in here?
Yeah. See, that puts that up to almost equal size as that.
One thing about it, now you do have some timber in here that within the next 5 or 6 years, you can probably cut. Now, there ain't gonna be no big deal, you know, ain't gonna be a lot.
Because he cleared, his property was completely clear
Yeah.
cut here 6, 7, 8 years ago.
It'd be
whatever.
hard to get somebody to move in there if they'll be.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've talked to a couple people that just go in there and look and see what they thought. But now all back over here, there is some good sized pines and most. But I was figuring the next time we have to cut this over here across the tracks, maybe they could do it then, like, cutting that big section.
Okay, so I guess, out of the council, I need a motion to get an appraisal done on it for, that section up there, considering it to be about 5 acres and get away from the swampy area.
But first of all, ask him if he'd be interested in doing that. There's
Okay,
no need us to do appraisal until he says he will set that was.
okay, so we just need to table it for tonight,
That'll be fine.
and then, we'll contact him back and, show him on the map what we're squared up.
The next question is kind of a general agreement that we would go with it. If each agreement is that, if we're not gonna go with it, there's no need in going any further.
Yeah, I think so.
I would not be in favor of going with it, except for the fact we've already done something with the top piece. It's not, we've already broke that line up coming across there.
You know about sewer lines, right? Like the
Yeah,
two on
now
each side.
he knows sewer line, because they run across his
Yeah, they run
property.
talking about this.
Sorry.
Down in that bottom, that sewer line runs across there. He's already cut a road in there. If you've been down that road, he's cutting in.
Yeah, that sewer line starts on Veterans on his property and goes over across his.
Okay, so we'll table it for tonight. We'll find out if he's interested in that parcel, which, we don't know is what, 3, 4, 5 acres at the most.
If you square it off right here, you may not be looking at a little over 2 acres.
I for some reason, I remember when that piece was offered, I thought it was 5 acres of Bob got. Mine is
right here.
Yeah, mine is 4, and I'm not sure how that line runs on here. You get my 4.
I think he said 3 1/4. when I talked to him.
Maybe
Department of
some
Public
Bob.
Health lady.
No, that guy.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
We'll know.
No, is that the lady from Department of Health?
Well, they're not from Park Health, but they're from the Department of Health, yes.
You would like to buy some land.
You know, about the fire.
But there's some
Using the
apartments,
fire
and there's real expensive apartments. And I told them about the land. that I had. But
Which
now,
property?
I think it's the Martin land.
He's got it listed. I think it's Kennedy Estate. I think that's right.
And he would like to know if we could, use that land to put apartments, but they're very, very
That's fine.
expensive. Maybe I need to talk to him about
Yeah.
that. Okay.
I'm sorry, Kennedy Estate.
And then you might be.
Okay. All right, okay, on the mountains, tomorrow is that they're predicting to severe weather. And, I wanted to run it back to council to probably release all our non-essential personnel as well.
Since
Schools
y'all,
and stuff are doing that.
since y'all been in the meeting, the governor declared a state of emergency for all 67 counties.
Did you cancel the design place?
Yes. Yeah, that's been council, so we'll go through it and, we'll release all non-essential employees. In preparation for that.
Sorry, Billy, I don't let you go.
Okay, the only other thing I want you to be aware of is that in the regular council session, I think is already on the agenda. We have the contract for outbound power and the LED light. Yeah. Other than that, we're gonna table Mr. Ron Williams. Okay, we're going to do a special meeting of the council to the work session for the pay plan. We do have a new hire for the police department that will be coming up. All right,
We need a little league team. I think last year we did have one, maybe we could find somebody to do. It'd be okay for us to get a little league because we need to feel about this? Do you think it would be okay if we could find somebody that could take that over?
Yeah, we'll schedule that on the next work session for the council meeting.
And we also need a grant payment on the park. You think we can get that done? A grant, maybe you said something about a grant for last meeting.
Right, well, the grant at the last meeting was, from Auburn, to complete the shelter and for the tables and benches and, I think the trash can at the park that's out there. Now, the city had agreed to provide the structure for that. So Auburn was going to put the canopy over. So, I know a lot of that came out of the grant.
Another grant, so I don't get.
There was some mulch grant too, that we were gonna try and get. the closet next month, so.
All right. I did. Starting next week. All right. Yeah, we're look at some recommendations. We actually need two.
I don't know. We haven't had anybody say they can't hear it, so that's a good thing.
Excuse me, Mayor. Do I need to stay the whole time?
Why don't you get out
Small, but that's one allocation. Stuff is supposed to be. Radar that shows. Stay around it. See what time I will take on hands. The hill up the side of the fall. And then
Oh.
and that's it, big holes in between. And red and orange lines and like the Monroe.
Good afternoon. The time is now 5 p.m. I'd like to call the regular meeting of Monroeville City Council to order. Those present being Councilman Focal, Councilman Hines, Councilman Thomas, Councilman Ruffin, Councilman McDaniel, and Councilman Booth. Okay, at this time, I will ask for the invocation by our representative.
May we pray? Eternal, everlasting Father, we come with our head bowed and our hearts are humble We come submissive unto thee as we know how. We thank you, O God, for such a beautiful day. We thank you for allowing us to be able to assemble ourselves together here in this designated area. Lord, we ask you for your divine guidance, that you will guide, that you will direct your people as business as usual. We pray, oh God, that you will always be first, that we will always put you first, and that you will direct our minds and direct our hearts. And as business are being transacted, God, we pray that we will always understand that in all our ways we should acknowledge you, and you will direct our path. Thank you for such a golden opportunity to come and just to say thank you, Lord. Thank you for just allowing us to be here. It is all because of you. Touch every man, every woman's heart, those that are responsible for directing business. We pray, God, that as they direct it, they will always remember that whatever they do, it will always touch the hearts of others. Bless the citizens of Monroe County. Thank you for the mayor. We pray, oh God, that you will continue to direct him in the path of righteousness. And Lord, we just say thank you. You are a mighty good God. We are so mindful to always in all things give thanks. We bless you, we praise you, we give you glory. It is your servant prayer we pray now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge of allegiance. Luke, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the work session that held on March 2nd at 3:45. The public hearing is held on March 2nd at 4:50, and the regular meeting is held on March 2nd at 5 p.m. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes? I have a second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, the next item that we had on the agenda, I'm not sure if we got a response from the individuals, but it's the Alabama Department of Public Health COVID testing sites at fire stations agreement.
Yes, sir. She is here and we were contacted last week about potential providing a COVID test site for the fire department. And I don't think it's actual Department of Public Health, it's through the Department of Public Health. So I asked her to come explain that to y'all because that would be something that you all would have to approve for us from liability and all that type of stuff. So.
My name is Kelly Gates. I work with Southern Alabama Healthcare Education Center. We are doing the COVID-19 testing. It's a grant from the National Institute of Health awarded to the UAB Center of AIDS Research. We have partnered with community-based organizations and organizations for this initiative. Our purpose is to maximize reach with undeserved communities disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, specifically rural, socioeconomically disadvantaged populations in target counties in North, East, and South Alabama. In the South, the following counties are identified as Clark, Conecuh, Escambia, Monroe, Washington, Baldwin, and Mobile counties. Southern Alabama AHAC is seeking partners to facilitate in this ongoing COVID testing event in our communities. We will be offering the test at your location. Additionally, we are seeking a location that we will provide weekly testing on the same day and the same time once a week for our community members who desire to be tested. Every Tuesday from 9 to 1 each week through June 30th, Southern Alabama AHAC will provide the PPE and arrange delivery and pickup of all testing supplies and transport to the UAB lab. It is 100% free. There's no symptoms necessary. There's no insurance required. It's pain-free. It can be a self-administered nasal swab, and we get the results back in 48 hours. And it is a highly accurate PCR test. Our COVID numbers in our community has gone down because there's a lack of testing. So our goal is if the fire department would like to pick like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, same day every week to advertise a certain time that they're going to be testing. People could come through. The fire department would actually give them the swab. They would swab themselves and they can even fill out their form. It's not an issue. We will pick the test up that afternoon. We'll drive them to UAB and the next day we will call and give out the results of that test. The only thing that the fire department would be responsible for is if, giving the test. We can also come and provide that test if the fire department doesn't want to do it. I can make arrangements to come up that day for a certain amount of hours and do it. I live here locally. So I don't mind doing that, or any fire department in the area. We can test the jail if you need the inmates tested to see if they have COVID. Like I said, it's a free service. It doesn't cost the community anything. I would go out to the jail. The nurse would actually administer the test to the inmates, just for safety for me. I would fill out the form. I would drop them to UAB. I would contact the sheriff and let them know that they have COVID. Our guidelines are that, once we notify you that they're positive, it's up to whoever, how they handle that situation, whatever their typical guidelines are. We can also do the service at our local hospitals. We can set up a drive-through clinic. We can let the fire department do it. We can go to anywhere. I know I spoke to Ms. Countryman, and she, said we could do it in Excel, but we wanted to approach the city of Monroeville first to see how they wanted to do that. Southern AHAC is out of Georgiana. We are partnered with the Alabama Department of Public Health. And this is a grant directly funded to us from the state of Alabama. So if this is a service that anybody's interested in, you can contact me directly. I can leave my number. I can leave a card or anything, whatever you want to do. And just, if you decide to do it through the fire department, you can just let me know.
Couple of questions. One is, do you feel there's a need at this point in time?
Yes.
And there for a while, there definitely was a need.
Well, the reason we feel there's a need is because we kind of forgot about testing and focused on injections.
Okay.
The numbers have fallen tremendously just because there's nobody testing anymore. Unless you go to your local doctor's office and you have insurance, that test is $100 and something. You have to have insurance to get the test for free at a local doctor's office. With us, we don't care if you have insurance. We don't require any insurance information whatsoever. We just need your name and your phone number and address.
What about exposure to our firemen? Even if
we provide all the gear, we provide the N95 mask, we provide gloves, we provide gowns, we provide face shields. Any equipment that they would need to perform that test safely, it will come directly from us. Everything that they need will come to us from us. Gloves, pins, everything.
Really the biggest concern I have out of it is we set up whatever date from time to time, then we have an emergency, then we have to leave and you have a bunch of people coming to get tested. That would be our biggest issue there.
That was going to be a question I had on my list.
And again, like I said, I live locally. I live in Excel. If you want to set up a time and a day and try it for a couple of times, I don't mind coming out and doing that. I do COVID testing in Bay Minette every Wednesday from 9 to 12. So, well, it's every other Wednesday now. And we just kind of set up a table outside and people just drive through, they get their test and they leave.
If they do it themselves, is this pretty well accurate of knowing how to do it yourself?
Yes, it doesn't
you start sticking that thing up your nose, you may not want to do it much.
It's the sensitive test from UAB. You don't have to stick it very far. You stick it right inside your nose on each side. I mean, it's really just 5 or 6 swirls in each side, and that's it. I hold a tube, they stick it in there, break it off, turn the top, send it off. And it's very accurate.
And this thing is 1 time a week. Is that enough? I mean, somebody thinks they got it. It's not too good to wait another week to find out something.
Well, they will get their results back.
But I'm talking about, so you only have opportunity on Mondays.
Well, I mean, that would be
up to you. If you're exposed on Wednesday or Thursday, you're gonna either have symptoms or something's gonna happen between now and the next Monday you come back.
Right, and that's up to y'all. How many ever days a week you want it? I mean, if you want to do it on Mondays and Fridays from 9 to 10 or from 9 to 12, like I said, I have a community health worker that works directly with me. She's from Monroeville. She's offered to come over and help. We can come and do that service. We can, like I said, we can try it at the fire department and see how it goes. And if there's more of a need for it, then we'll go from there. I mean, we're available at your discretion. It's our job to make sure the tests get done because the testing is lacking.
Service is needed. It was definitely needed earlier than now, but it's still needed. But I'm concerned if y'all can handle it on that part of it. And the other part is exposure, because if somebody thinks they have it, they're coming in contact with your people at that location, even if at a distance and everything else.
If there's somewhere to set up a table We can do like a kind of like a circle drive-through, like we do at the Civic Center, Bay Minette. They just drive through. They register with one person, they test with the other, and they drive out. They never get out of their cars. They never do anything.
Or if this provides a location, I think we got a problem with that part of it, if y'all willing to do everything.
Yeah, we can do everything. That's fine.
Also, I got word today, April 7th, they're starting the vaccine, back up to schools, we'll be tied up on those days as well. Or a crew will be with them.
So if you, I'll stop at that point, but if you're willing to do everything, then we still try.
We can even go into the schools. I mean, it's been discussed in Clark County, in Jackson. They had talked about us coming in. We would test the kids. If parents wanted to get tested, we could do that. I mean, that would just be up to the city, you know, the Board of Education and the city, you know, because they did tell me that I would have to have approval from, you know, from certain people if we did that. But we are willing to go and do whatever we can to help, you know, as far as get these tests out and get them done. And again, it's a free service.
Okay. We heard the presentation concerning the testing. Do I have a motion to approve the testing sites at the fire station? No, agreement. I make a motion. Do I have a second? Any discussion?
What is the condition to how it come in? Do we need to have a plan at this point in time? You got any suggestions?
I would probably recommend to start with that maybe they do it and we assist and see if that's something that we can handle. Again, my only concern is I don't want to get a bunch of people that's coming a day and then we have a fire and all of it's gone for several hours.
Sounds good.
So far as, you know, being able to circle the fire station or whatever we can make all that work.
All right. Any more discussion? There being none, all in favor? All opposed? All right, the next item on the agenda, was to set a hearing for the condemnation of public property. I believe this was the property located down by the hotels on 21 South, but it's not needed property being torn down. So we can move to the next item. And the next item on the list was the Alabama Power Master LED Streetlight Agreement. And I think this was something we discussed at the last meeting. And after the discussion and everything, we came up and divided that is roughly a $1,200 a month difference in our power bill. The cost of $1,200 a month more to enter into this agreement. So do I have a motion to accept the master contract for light services in Alabama Power for the installation of LED?
Absolutely.
Do I have a second? All in favor? All opposed?
We were discussing that. I mean, are we gonna gain $5,000 worth of benefit out of it? A year. We got street lights. I mean,
Yeah.
The lighting that they put at the training complex and fire station is much greater than the traditional lighting we had before.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
We can cut some, he said we can, we cut, just like the entrance to Hornet Drive, there are two lights sitting there on that intersection. If we can't legally move any out because of.
Well, we can't legally move any on state right away.
Well, that'd be a state right away, but there are two lights sitting there on a pole on one street corner, on the same pole. We're turning in on Hornet.
That's off Drury Road.
Yeah, off Drury Road.
Now, we could go there. We can move it, you know, we determined that there's more light than what's needed.
I mean, one's turning this way and one's turning this way off the same pole.
Yeah, we can have one of them.
There's definitely South Alabama, there's close to each other there, but he says he can't do.
That's DOT. Right. But the others inside the city, on the city streets, if we determine that there's more light that is needed because these put out so much more light, yes, we can.
They will charge us any more to take it down, right?
Okay, the next item on the agreement, I'm sorry, on the agenda is a private agreement with Blackman LLC for sales tax rebates. I think this was presented to us in the last, application. And it conforms with what the amended agreements are that we have done up to the first $175,000. When they reach that, we give them the rebate. And then from that point until their anniversary date, they will get the rebate for the length of the agreement. So do I have a motion for the project agreement with Blackman LLC for sales tax rebates?
When is the day that they can start operation?
You know,
There was something in there, but it was like, hey, April, I didn't think they could do it. You had a time, you had a year time period listed in there, started April.
It was April 1st, 2021, is
Yeah.
where the year
Yeah,
one
that's-
will start. Yes, sir.
Are they gonna be operational in 2 weeks?
okay,
I'll second it.
any discussion? Okay. There being none, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the next item on the agenda has been, Mr. Ron Wiggins, the purchase of city parcel by Veterans Park. And the council agreed to table that for the time being until we get some more information. Okay. Also, the next item on the agenda was resolution 2103-004, classification pay scale. And that item will be tabled pending the special meeting of the council for further discussion. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 2021-03-004. Should that be fine?
It's an ordinance.
Oh, okay. Zoning ordinance attachment, and do I have a motion to suspend the rules? Do I have a second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Okay. All right, opposed? Opposed.
You have to have a unanimous vote to suspend the rules, but then the motion to adopt the ordinance.
Therefore, we need to have a plan on how we're going to implement this.
So, we're not carrying this over to.
We have a plan presented to us of how we're going to be able to enforce this.
I think it's already in the zoning ordinance.
I agree with that, but are we going to have a plan to enforce what they want us to do? Can we do it?
We'll go back to the planning commission. Okay, next item on the agenda is a new hire for the police department. Dr. Simon, you here, any comments concerning the new hire? Here's your recommendation there. From what I've seen in the application, you passed everything, so that's your recommendation to pass. Okay? Yes, sir. It is over there just outside of Washington. You know, Washington. So we have the item is to, for the police department new hire starting at $13.13 an hour. Ms. Shanda Pugh. I've gone through and I reviewed the background investigation. I found nothing that the police department in that would predicate not hiring this young lady. So I have a motion to hire Ms. Shanda Pugh at the rate of $13.13 per hour. the Monroe Police Department. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? All opposed? There being none, motion carries. Okay. The matter to be presented by the mayor, I really don't have any at this time, other than to announce two things. Number one, due to severe weather alerts tomorrow, we will be releasing all non-essential city workers at 12 noon. I think that's a recommendation that the school board is following and due to the information received from the National Weather Service. The other announcement is that we did have a meeting scheduled for the Claudel Design Project, and that's going to be rescheduled also. I have no further announcements, Councilman Brooks.
One, I was gonna ask, last year, you got some people watching drains and all around the thing.
Yeah.
On the street drains. And number two, Mr. Kurt with Walmart is here. I've heard a lot of good things about the vaccinations you guys are doing. Any words you want to say about that?
Actually, I'm showing up all the time slots. I go very soon. I have my second vaccination. At that age. We started this week on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We're doing 80 a day. And then 20 to 30 on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Previously, it was only 80 on Thursdays. We ramped it up. We got about 400 doses a week now.
That's all.
Okay.
Councilman Tom? Councilman Hunt?
Oh, yeah, last, few days, we received an email, that stated that we would receive approximately 1.06 million from this latest, initiative, the 1.9 trillion, dollar, package. What I'd like, and I know there's always, there's a list of things that you can and can't do, and always strings attached and things that we can and can't use it for. But I'd like to look and see, when it all shakes out, if this money, like the 500,000, that debt that we have on the M Block building, if it would be permissible to use any of that money. I know I saw the list that was attached, but there's always other things that come out, because if that could be classified as an economic issue because of the pandemic, but I would like for us to look at that when it all shakes out and we get all the information from Montgomery or wherever.
I agree. We need to explore all possibilities.
Right.
I hate turning things back in.
Well, if you do the 500,000 for that, and then I don't know if the roof issue with Sterling might be a possibility, because that's an economic issue. If they can't operate, then we got a problem there. So, but anyway, just
Do we need to talk about anything with fireworks or anything else on today or anything?
Yes, sir. Actually, we probably need a motion to set fireworks date for July 3rd and rain date for July 2nd.
And I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion?
you said third.
Saturday, 3rd, and then 20 days, that's Monday, 5th.
All in favor? Chief Black? All right.
Yes, sir. The grass is starting to grow and they're gonna be long bunch of power summer hill. And I guess they're gonna be sending over the renewal contract for the People Mart. Do y'all still wanna go with People Mart?
Did it work all right last year?
Yes, sir. It saves us a lot of having to test and hire myself.
So we'll As soon as they get the contract, he'll just stay on the agenda for the next week. Okay. Ms. Brooks?
Yes, we'd like to announce that we'll have spring cleanup the whole entire month of April. And we will have a day set aside for April. It's gonna be April 17th will be our spring cleanup day for civic groups, churches, anybody that wants to go on that day as a main group day, that would be wonderful. And then on April 24th, we're gonna do the National VA Prescription Drug Take Back Day. And those facilities I will be accepting the prescriptions will be our police station, Monroe Drugs, and Walmart on that day, and it'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Thank you.
And the other thing that they will not accept is liquids, not perform.
And the only thing I would like to add to that is that, you know, litter is a problem, not just here, but everywhere. And we are formulating a plan to address litter because litter is just not a once a month problem. It's a year round problem. And it's going to take individual commitment from the community as well as working with the city and the other government agencies to try and resolve this problem and make Monroeville. My goal is, of course, be the most beautiful city in the world. Got it, son? Ms. Jackson? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Mike might want to, I don't know about the paper, but Alabama Convict was closed to senior centers for a hot meal delivery Wednesday and Thursday this week due to the weather. In case anybody gets any calls from clients if they didn't get their lunches, y'all would know.
All right. If there are no.
One other thing, grocery pickup at Walmart, all has been real positive comments. That's a huge plus.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting, the Rome City Council.
Second.
All in favor?